Welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready to start session 3 on the economic and policy incentives. I think this is a natural flow of this event that we now move to those incentives that help us really scale up land restoration and impact people's livelihoods. And I just want to set the stage by reminding ourselves of the systems and interconnectedness across our stakeholders and our scales. We can visualize farm and grazing lands and managers at the center. And farming and pastoral systems are underpinned by their ecosystem function and supported through production practices and the value chains at different scales that result in livelihoods inputs. And at each step of the way, they are influenced by our enabling environment. So during this last session, on a substantive session, during this last session, we will focus on those incentives and those engagement approaches that enable land restoration. So a couple of key messages as we set out. Equitable incentives motivate and benefit those who undertake landscape restoration. And value chains with economic benefit and policies create an enabling environment are two of those critical incentives. And with that, I'd like to prompt a question into the chat box or into your comments section on social media. What incentives have you used to enable the scaling of land restoration? We look forward to hearing from you and our audience. And now I am going to turn our attention to our speakers. And we have an action-packed session. I am going to remind my good colleagues to keep to time. And right now, I just want to introduce all of our speakers very fully, and then we will go from speaker to speaker. So first and foremost, we have Dr. Sammy Carson, our agroforestry scientist who focuses on trees at C4ICRAF. He'll be talking about the Regreening Africa approach to value chains. Then we're going to hear some really specific examples of value chains around the Africa countries. Case from Avocado Value Chain in Kenya, which we're excited to hear from Brian Musia Wambui of World Vision, and then a case on the Shea Value Chain in Mali by Suleiman Fasum Doumbia of Oxfam. And then we will hear from Dr. Mawa Karambiri, C4ICRAF policy advisor on policy engagement approach in Regreening Africa. And that's not all, folks. We're also going to hear a really exciting policy case around the FMNR decree in Niger by Bube Shayaya Abdul Kadri, and is from CARE as the project manager. And last but not least, the case of integrating FMNR in Somaliland and Puntland state policies. And we will hear Ahmed Mohammed from CARE, Puntland, and Ibrahim Mohammed Muse, who is the Food Security and Livelihoods Manager at World Vision Somaliland. And I've seen some good questions in the chat from around the practices in Somalia. So please, with that, I am delighted to turn the floor to my colleague, Dr. Sammy Carson. Set the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm sure.
All right.
Thank you, Mika. Sammy,
Thank
you
you
have
so
the
much,
floor.
Constance. All right. Thank you so much, Constance, for the opportunity to share on value chains. Again, my name is Sammy Carson, so I'll be presenting on behalf of the team that's involved in this work, Jalal, Grace, and other colleagues involved in the design technical implementation work. So really implementing tree value chains in this program was not just an activity for us, but has provided us important learnings on livelihood aspects that really drive restoration. So in my next few minutes, I'll try to show you some of the approaches that we have actually obtained so far in doing this work. So why tree value chains? Really uniquely, tree value chains, even though most neglected, are reachable business opportunity, and especially for women who are really have this resource to actually provide income source, but also more importantly, as a food security opportunity. So locally, regionally, and even nationally, we are seeing a development in terms of, a growth opportunity for tree-based value chains, and especially from some of these species that have been sort of neglected, that are actually becoming competitive compared to what we've previously relied to, of course, thinking of the mainstream commodity crops. So we're seeing this really focus, giving us an incentive to also do restoration, but also improve reinvestment in agriculture. Because what we've seen, especially for rural communities that earn an income from some of this value chain, that income goes back to developing the land, that income goes back into investing the land and making practices more sustainable. Next slide, please. So interestingly, even though we say tree value chains are neglected, some of the product value chain can actually be very, very complex. And here we provided an example of a mapping of actors who are actually taking part in the value chain sector, in the sheer value chain sector. So looking at all the actors that are involved from the farm level to really the local level, to the national level, all the way to the international level. And we see a very range of roles, a diverse range of roles that is actually being played by the different actors, really, and who are trying to see in terms of our intervention, what are those, interventions that we could actually do to realize quick wins, given that some of really the intervention need significant investment in terms of expertise and significant investment in terms of resource that even touch on infrastructure development so that we actually having fully fledged product development. So our focus has really focused mainly on the primary level actors, so the local level actors, all the way to the national level actors, to really help address some of the critical areas that also touch around restoration. Next slide, please. So we set out to identify some of the bottlenecks that really hinder takeoff for some of these value chains. And we have identified issues that include issues of resource depletion, and especially when you're thinking of geographicals like the parklands, where we actually seeing issues of the aging parklands and maturing trees and, of course, tree removals within these systems. So having also, of course, experiencing issues in terms of gaps in technical support, issues around processing, issues around infrastructure and finance that communities can actually receive really to develop this value chain. It's a long-term process, so we are trying to see also where we actually fit in most closely to have a quick win with a 5-year program. Next slide, please. Yeah, so following our situational assessment, what we actually try to do is develop some sort of collective act, realizing the scarcity of the resource that is available, especially for the local level actors. So this really helped us to really focus in terms of looking at what collective actions, activities we could do in terms of supporting business groups, association, cooperatives, saving and loan groups that really could, of course, bring together their resources and, of course, get some advantage out there in the market, given the challenges that actually are out there. We've managed to organize a lot of trade fairs, and in the next segments by my colleagues, you see some of the experiences in terms of exhibitions, food competition fairs, business development opportunities and trainings that have taken place in terms of developing groups that have been set up across the regions to develop key value chains. Next. So another crucial approach that has happened so far is really mobilizing support for these value chains, because like I was saying earlier, they are quite neglected. And what we actually don't see is that institutional support, that institutional backing. If you think about this value chain compared to the of commodities. Some of these values lack that institutional to help in policies that support them, and also investment is a neglect of this facility across the countries. Working is actually organize national forums and invite all level stakeholders. And on the left there, you could see a forum that we held recently with colleagues in Mali, where we had also a minister actually come and attend this interaction with the communities and the women groups that are actually trading. We have high-level participants actually coming in and exchanging. We had microfinance coming in, really provide information to grow out what government can do and how we can actually better align some of these value chains to what national institutes are doing. Okay, next. Yes, so we managed to record quite a number of learnings, like I was saying earlier, in terms of how we actually can develop these value chains. Some of them need a lot of marketing support. A lot of them are seasonal. So what we see is really, other than just developing one value chain that operates for a single season, how do we close those seasonal gaps? Then also addressing some of those critical issues in terms of business registration, in terms of licensing, in terms of providing, marketing outlets, in terms of branding, but also, looking at input side of things, because again, this is sort of lacking. So quite a number of opportunities have been documented, and we are seeing that as an area that could actually provide a lot of information and a lot of knowledge to new projects that are coming in and interested to develop tree-based value chains. Next. Yes, so we recorded again more detailed challenges around value chains, and some of them, of course, around issues of harvesting. And we see indiscriminate harvesting, but also we're seeing, of course, uninformed in terms of processing and production issues, where mixed quality of produce is used, and the opportunity missing there of, of course, even developing, tree species or varieties that will provide a uniform produce, so that actually off-takers are able to get a uniform product for processing, and again, avoiding the problem of mixed quality issues and poorly targeted markets. Targeting, of course, also looks at the vertical actors, especially at the policy level and governance issues, because again, we see quite a lot of disconnect there between what the policymakers are looking for, rural communities are able to produce or engage in. Okay. Next, so quite a number of learnings have been recorded within this work. We are seeing also for every product, we really need to think about restoration plans for those projects, for those products and trees, because again, we are seeing the issue of depletion if left alone, of course, to few actors. Issues of product diversification, looking at the of course, seasonality issues and communities not able to close seasonal gaps where produce are actually only trade within short months over here, but also then looking at the overall business sustainability plans. So how can government support? How can we actually do better gender integration and consideration for these enterprises? How could we actually tap into the growth potential for this? How can we actually have better market share for these enterprises? And how can we actually avoid also unintended consequences by developing some of the value chains that could be destructive? We've developed a short
may we invite
guide.
you to finish up?
Right. Yes, we have a small guide there that can provide quite a straightforward and in a clear format guide on how to develop tree-based value chains, because again, we see a knowledge gap in that sector. So we've developed a number of national level recommendations from the national forums that we have, and this is just an example, Constance, of the recommendations that have come out from the national value chain forums that we've conducted across countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sammy. That was an excellent overview, and I love your key steps to causing it to happen. Really well done. And my hardest job is telling people to stop talking, but I appreciate your keeping the time. Thank you so much. And now we are going to hear about the avocado value chain. And I am delighted to invite Brian Wambua from World Vision and Robert Karui from Haybacks. So a public-private partnership. Please, you have the floor, Brian.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
You are fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to make a presentation about avocado value chain. The reason is that in Kenya, Kenya is one of the countries in the world which is greatest producers and exporters of avocado, which is a fruit. And the avocado we are talking here is a hybrid, so it's a grafted fruit tree. And in Kenya, we deal with two varieties. One is called Fuete, and the other one is called Hass. And the reason is that because if you have the opportunity for the country to do a lot of production and export for market, it means there's a lot of economic value surrounding the avocado value chain. And remember, in line with the Regreening Africa project, the overall goal is to reverse land degradation through scaling up greening agriculture by smallholder farmers in Africa. So we saw that as a great opportunity to leverage on, so that we may get more and more farmers in Kenya living in degraded landscapes to adopt avocado farming, integrating with other forms of agriculture and crops they are growing, so that we can have trees on farm. Next to the other slide. Yeah, so one of the ways now to encourage the smallholder farmers in Kenya living in integrated landscapes to adapt the avocado value chain and invest in it was to look at how we can start the initiative, because remember, these farmers, some of them are faced with the poverty challenge, and scaling up and investing in restoration by farmers who are smallholder farmers is very expensive. So through working with Habex, we engage the farmers on a contract basis, so that the private sector, which is Habex, is able to provide the ceilings on a credit, and then the farmers are able to adopt the ceilings which they have been given, a minimum of 40 ceilings, and then when they harvest, Habex provides the market, exports the fruits which have been harvested, and then the costs implications of supporting the initial ceilings for planting is catered for when those farmers sell the fruits to Habex for export. And the Habex, which is the company, private company supporting the farmers, which we are linking with the project, supports also free extension services to farmers up to the point of marketing and selling the fruits which have been harvested. Yeah. Next. Next. Yeah, so through the contract model to strengthen the avocado value chain by the smallholder farmers, we're able to reach to at least 3,000 farmers who are mobilized and capacity built from 2018 up to present. Remember, the project was running from 2017 to 2022, which is a 5-year period. And currently, we have a total of 2,300 smallholder farmers already engaged in the avocado contract farming model in 2 counties of Baringo and Elgeyo Marakwet. So out of the 2,300 farmers engaged in the 2 counties, a total of 92,000 avocado trees have been established in the 2 counties with an annual output of 100,000 kilos of avocados harvested, bringing it to an income of $50,000 US with 1,150 acres restored and avocado. So you can see now the general output in avocado production and income to farmers is expected to rise as more and more farmers still embrace the avocado value chain and also most of the trees are still at growth and maturity stage. Next. Yeah, this is an example of a farmer in Baringo, and as I have indicated that currently we have 2,300 farmers who have planted at least 40 avocado trees on farm. It tells you how being able, through a period of less than 4 years, through engagement with harvests and the contract of farming with farmers, how we have been able to develop small forests at community level to ensure that these farmers, as much as we are strengthening the avocado value chain, we are still in line with the project goals and objectives of reversing land degradation, enhancing food security, enhancing economic income, and also promoting climate change resilience in community areas which are degraded and which are prone to degradation. Next. Yeah, so how have we been working with Habex as a project? Habex is a private company, as I've indicated, engaged in avocado value chain in Kenya. So the Regreening project is working in 7 counties in Kenya to restore degraded sites. So we leverage on partners in those counties who are doing restoration, so that we can work with them and synergize to ensure that we scale up restoration, which has already been ongoing in those counties by those partners. And Abex has been one of them in Baringo and Elgeyo-Marakwet counties. So for us, we've been focusing on growing high-value multipurpose trees to contribute restoration, to promote household nutritional value and long-term farmers' economic income, among other ecological services. So leveraging on Abex expertise on marketing of avocado project, set to mobilize farmers to incorporate avocado to diversify farm productivity. So as I indicated earlier, the project supported in identification, mobilization, capacity building, and linking the farmers to Abex, which in turn supports supply of high-value seeds, which are grafted, and also extraction services and guaranteed market for the fruits which are exported. Next. Yeah, the opportunities which we have, one is scaling out avocado fruit value chain to other potential counties. Remember, we are only working in 2 counties with Abex, but we have other counties which are viable for avocado fruit value chain production and also strengthening, like Nakuru, Uasin Gishu County, and also like Laikipia. Other opportunities are that more farmers are coming on board, and the yield increase at the trees at different stages of development. Challenges are land ownership and competing land uses, and also capital for expansion of the regreening model to other viable areas. Next. Yeah, so key lessons and messages. One is that the market-led horticulture projects combining private sector expertise will help small, medium, and enterprise farmers to overcome the challenges they face to access markets, increase production, and improve food safety. Leveraging on private sector investment journey with the farmers makes the project viable, innovative, and scalable. Farmer-to-farmer learning accelerates adoption of land restoration approaches. Then benefit-based approaches promote tree survival and management by farmers. Next. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brian. And we so appreciated that story. And you're getting lots and lots of questions. So you may want to check the chat box as well as the Q&A. I think people are very excited about the avocado value chain and your work together with farmers and through the NGO and with Habex, the private sector partner. All right, with that, I am now going to, we collectively are all going to Mali, and we are going to hear about the shea value chain. So with that, I would invite my colleague Doumbia to take the floor. And Doumbia, I just also wanted just to say, if you're just joining, you can use French or English in the translation if you look at the lower part of your screen. Merci, Doumbia. Vous avez la parole.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Constance.
Yes, thank you very much, Constance. My name is Suleiman Dumbia. I'm a manager for Regreening Africa Mali, and I'm a specialist in terms of value chains. Today, my task is to present to you the share value chain as a driver for restoration in Mali. Next slide. So in Mali, the forest subsector leads many sectors like the pharmacy sector, food security, trade, and contributes to the national GDP to the tune of 49%, according to statistics provided by the National Direction of Water and Forest. If we consider harvest products like shea and others, fruits and wild nature, the estimated value of products from the subsector is around 70 billion of francs CFA per year. On this amount, we have the share sector that provides 1.1 billion francs CFA per year. Next slide, please. In Mali, our approach to promote agroforestry value chains as part of the Regreening Africa project, they focus on the following points. We started by conducting a diagnostic study following the analysis and market development ADM approach to establish the situation on PFNL projects. We were also able to identify actors and assess their capacities, as well as identifying constraints related to agroforestry value chains development. With regards to the share value chain, we identified the following challenges concerning the aging of the sector, the poor access to the market, and difficult access to credit. After the diagnostic study, we train our field agents with regards to the value chain, and through this training, we send our agents on the field to meet actors and also establish deepen analysis to know which value chains these actors want to focus on. And for most of the cases, we identified priorities around the share value chain. As a reason, we were able to involve over 2,000 women together with a cooperative, and we were able to have 76 groups. These are groups of women, allowing them to establish rules and amounts to be able to work and use them as loans to be able to achieve their objectives. That's how we were able to support our women. After that, we also did technical capacity building for the cooperatives. This was done through series of training on its itineraries for share product. We were able to disseminate entrepreneurship trainings, and we also did training on stock management and administrative management. We also provided opportunities, and we did capacity building of many other cooperatives, and we provided materials to them.
So in the cooperatives, we through platforms, multifunctional platforms, we set up training and learning groups. We also organized a session with different actors and financial service providers and potential actors. So you realize that we have financial service providers in the zone, but the cooperatives are not able to use their services because of the high rates. And therefore we had to set up a framework that would help the various actors to have a win-win relationship. And with the actors also, we realize that it's the buyers who fix set the prices and also the conditions. And this helped the various this approach helped us to have a win-win uh, relationship. We had also a framework and a forum that we organized previous month. It's a forum that helped us to value the share value chain at the national level. Next slide. Next slide, please. Regarding challenges and opportunities, we observed the following. With regard to the opportunities, we have a strong collaboration of women through activities, share sewing activities. And so we we provided opportunity for the women to plant the shea, and it's a tree that produces fruits for a long period. And people are of the view that this shea has to grow naturally, and usually when it grows, it takes a long time for people to get the benefits from it. But due to the difference in the value chain, the diversification in the value chain, we have realized people have gained more interest with the fact that if they are not able to take parts of the planting process, one day they will run out of raw materials. And this was one of the elements we used to sensitize people, and that each woman at least should do well to plant a shade tree. We also work with various authorities at different levels on advocacy. So 42 women's groups of more than were able to we help to promote the acquisition of land for constituting about 80 hectares. And this helped to mobilize more than 20 million francs CFA through the various processes. Next slide. What are the lessons? It is worth noting that the combination of different activities and the development of the value chain together are factors to motivate the shea farmers. And once the producers are motivated, they would be will mobilize themselves to plant more shade trees because they have gained knowledge on the usefulness of having more of these shade trees. And the idea is to find out, is to ensure that the producer gains or derives the full benefits of the forest and through trees, these tree products or tree crops. And once the tree crops are sufficient, they could be assured of enough raw materials. And also women and young people are the key actors when it comes to processing these agroforestry products. And if this category of people are organized in groups, there are organization in various groups to produce and process shea can help them to continue getting more benefits from these resources. Next slide.
Thank you. And we are running out of
So
time perfectly.
thank you. Thank you very much for your kind attention and for your participation.
Oh, congratulations, Dumia. That was a wonderful presentation. And I know everybody in the world enjoys the benefits of share. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing those important means by which you've been able to move it forward. So at this moment, I'm going to turn it over to the dear colleague, Mawa Karambiri, Dr. Karambiri, and invite her as we transition to the policy dimension, and she will talk about the policy approach. Mawa, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Constance, for the floor. Share tout le monde. Mais
Dear all, my slide is in English, and I have been asked to present in French for us to have some balance. I'm glad to be here. The issue I want to dwell on is how we have handled the issue of policy in relation with restoration project in Regreening Africa. Next slide, please. Approach.
Can you move the slide, please? Yeah. Not approach the politic.
Our approach to policy engagement is a structured one based on, is evidence-based to engage all actors and stakeholders in a dialogue in order to influence policy and practice. So I'm presenting 6 interactive steps and as well as some examples that you have, some of which you have heard and some you will hear in later. So in some, we are going to first of all look at an analysis, an opportunity identification, and also we are going to take stock of the issues and stakeholder engagement, and we are currently looking at documents in relation to FMNR and to identify the gaps and organize our future activities around what we would have identified as gaps. And also, we will be talking about the stakeholder mapping. We have done some stakeholder mapping, and then we organized country workshops to share and discuss the challenges and opportunities still with all stakeholders, after which we come up with a roadmap and a common vision. We also identified and mapped the results and reforms that were expected to finally arrive at a planning of advocacy steps. Next slide. So I'm giving you some examples now of tools that we used, as well as some examples of engagement efforts. In terms of tools, we have the outcome mapping tool that helps us to do monitoring and analysis. It is based on behavioral change. It helps to identify policy engagement opportunities, to plan and enable interactions and cross-learning, which is very important. And finally, to track and adapt the results, the resulting changes. With regard to the engagement, you just heard Edward talk about the Northern Ghana Restoration Initiative, which is an initiative that we started through inclusive dialogue at the provincial and regional level, and very soon at the national level. And you also heard of you heard Laura talk about the agroforestry strategy in Kenya and other aspects. In Senegal also, we have with our partner World Vision undertaking some activities in very interactive and multi-stakeholder activities that covers the livestock production, transhumance, and everything that helped us to drastically reduce conflict in the area. Next slide, please. We also took part in FMNR activities in Niger, which you'll be hearing from soon from our colleagues from Niger. We also organize interactive dialogues in person and virtual also with various project teams and country teams on good practices. We also organized some webinars due to the COVID. We had to organize webinars on gender mainstreaming, faith, value chains, and faith as an incentive to land restoration. Also, still in the same vein, next week we'll be organizing a learning and visit to Niger, across country policy learning visit. And this will be done together with policymakers in Niger, and these are all part of our strategy to help influence policy. Next slide. Also, cross-learning workshops help us to juxtapose various platforms for science, policy, and practice platforms, and also to help bring back the data and evidence to the countries in order to promote decision making based on evidence. So we do this through workshops that are already in session or in progress. We also use the opportunity to mobilize. Next slide. Next slide. We had the opportunity to also mobilize more resources and to garner more support for the interventions that we have initiated. We also have the opportunity to build wider collaboration among stakeholders across scales to achieve national aspirations and targets. We will be able to continue our sharing and also sharing these good results, positive results that we have chalked. We have two messages and a message to conclude. The next slide, please. So key lessons and messages: enabling policy environment is critical for sustainable scaling of land restoration. The next message is a targeted approach that is inclusive and evidence-based, builds coherence and better results for land restoration outcomes. Thank you very much, Constance. Over to you.
Brilliant, Mawad. That was an excellent presentation. Thank you for really unpacking the different elements of the approach that makes that direct link to policy shifts and drawing on what we're getting done in terms of practice and policy. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Now we are going to hear a bit more detail about those policy shifts. And I am excited now to introduce Bube Chayaya Abdul Kadri, who is going to present from Niger about the case of farmer managed natural regeneration decree. Thank you so much. You have the floor. Vous avez la parole.
Merci.
Thank you.
Donc, je vais vous présenter
So I'm going to present to you
le processus
the process and the lessons drawn from
régénération naturelle assistée au Niger.
the
Il faut tout d'abord
farmer managed natural regeneration in Niger. So, and we're going to take into account the Sahelian context where it's a challenge maintaining the quality and the management of land. FMNR is an alternative when it comes to reforestation and land restoration. It's an opportunity to integrate tree crops in the food and agricultural production systems. There's a provision that concerns these land regimes or forest management in Niger. FMNR is acknowledged as a measure for landowners or farmland owners, and therefore it's important to have a regulation that govern this management, sustainable land management. Next slide. Modalities of access with regards to FMNR are stipulated in this provision that acknowledge the rights of ownership to these farmlands under the condition of the environmental protection measures. And the state also guarantees a good governance of land ownership and takes necessary measures to ensure the security of or the safety of producers. And the state services that govern water and forestry ensure that the FMNR practices are governed by an advisory service and that tree crops are integrated. So aside from the landowners, other users are able to use the land for other purposes. Next slide. These are the provisions, regulatory provisions First of all, there is a provision on the harvest of all product or byproduct from tree that grafted tree products. However, even someone who has a permit to cut a tree can only cut down or fell trees under with the authorization of the landowner, and the use of these forage and others can only be permitted by the landowner. So the owner has to give their permission, the landowner has to give their permission or their authorization for any land to be, or any tree to be cut. Next slide, please. With regard to challenges and opportunities observed, first of all, there's a challenge with regard to dissemination, popularization of this order and the application of the provisions in this order. The second challenge has to do with the rights to pasture, with also with regard to the authorization of landowners or areas where the FMNR have been applied. Since animals are allowed to graze, the landowner is the one who has the power to provide authorization for, I mean, who has the right to give that authorization for the products or tree crops to be used. And also we have to look at how to ensure that the authorization rights are not abused and to become a source of conflict. Next slide. The key lessons drawn: the fact that there is this provision ensures that the regulations on FMNR that could prevent or help to manage conflicts in these areas. The other lesson is that the use of FMNR is an opportunity to help regreening help scale up the regreening approach, because this is a practice that was faced with so many challenges due to the various issues such as conflicts that were existent in the Sahaelian context. The other aspect has to do with advocacy, which is being done by various actors. And this order helps to strengthen the advocacy that has been done by various stakeholders. And this order also serves to prevent or manage conflicts. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doumbia. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. That was really an excellent presentation. I think that that we have learned an enormous amount. And I think if those of you who have been tracking the Niger story, it has been a long time coming, but it is also a success story that continues to prove more and more success. So thank you so much for that. And now I would, and I greatly appreciate that, Bube. Now I would like to introduce my colleagues from Care Puntland, Ahmed Mohammed, and our Food Security and Livelihoods Manager from World Vision, Somaliland. They're going to both speak for 5 minutes each. Ibrahim Mohammed Mousse, and we are going to hear about how FMNR has been integrated into state policies in Somaliland and Puntland. Ahmed, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Constance. Hi, everyone. This is Ahmed Mohammed from Care Somalia, presenting from Garowe, Puntland, state of Somalia. If I go through my presentation of today, it was an important aspect of our project implementation of Regreening Africa in Puntland. If I could give you a bit of a background, our time is very limited, but let me go through the presentation. In current situation, what we have done was there was an integration of the FMNR, BMNR language into an existing rangeland management policy. That decision was made because formulation of policies and many of them was not a good idea at that time. So we had taken that decision to integrate the existing ones. So there's a strong government commitment to FMNR approach, which was a new phenomenon at that time. And what we had done also was policy consultation with key stakeholders here in Puntland. And there was also an event where policy was tabled before the Puntland policymakers, the relevant agencies like the livestock and other security agencies. There was also a relevant agencies which devised implementation and their implementation strategies. We also, on behalf of the government, since the project closed, the government continued to build the capacity of the government, staff and communities on FMNR, BMNR, based on the policy was introduced. FMNR, BMNR policy was also embedded in the National Development Plan. Puntland also started incorporating FMNR, BMNR into state-run projects. There's also a monitor and evaluation impact on primary stockholder beneficiaries, which has also been done by the government now as a result of our efforts. There's a process now undergoing. There's a buy-in from the federal government. They are exploring replication because in Somalia we have 4 other states in the south. So those states started to also gain from what we have done here in Puntland. If you can continue. Yes, if you can check here, maybe you have presented some of the things we have done here is you can see this a law enforcement officer come to see how the government they introduced rangeland management policy and integrated with the BMNR in effect in the land. So this what we have done is ministries demonstrated commitment and confidence in the rollout, and they enforcing FMNR. They started enforcing FMNR. There is high uptake by land ministries. There's also strong public sensation processes, which also created a buy-in and public confidence. Benefits was expanded to run non-Regreening Africa target project questions. And in our the project was only focused in 2 regions in Puntland. There are 3 other main regions which are now being expanded to the initiative of the policy. Large portions of the communities in Puntland also started practicing the approach of their land because initially they were hesitant because nobody was thinking that this kind of approach can become a land restoration approach that can reclaim the eroded land. So the policies proved to be a low cost. I'm talking about here the FMNR. It's proved to be a low cost land restoration approach, suitable and replicable to the dry lands of Puntland. When the policy was expanded or disseminated to some communities in other regions, they have accepted a low cost method of land restoration approach. There's also a strong engagement of women who are also contributing significantly in the uptake efforts. Can we go, please? Okay, here we have I mixed up here challenges and opportunities, which we have seen during you can see this woman is in an FMNR, she's called Fardousa. FMNR site in a place called Rat Village. The weather is not good. It's a dry land area, and we see FMNR is suitable to this area. Some of these trees we were planting are the Camifora trees, which are adaptable to this harsh climate. And it even became a cash crop these days. This type of plant is exported to outside countries, and the government is now controlling because the people are not planting more trees. So if it exported many of these plants, it can turn the land to more dry land. So there's some of the challenges we have. The budgetary support is inadequate, which can support the statewide dissemination of PMNR and FMNR policy. Also, busters with limited knowledge are also a challenge because they see it as a threat to their way of life. Normally here farmers are very few. Most of the people are pastoralists and they practice free grazing. So it see it as a challenge. So to convince them is still a challenge, but it is progressing well. Women and youth are the force of FMNR, BMNR initiatives, giving their efforts to convince every skeptical community member. They are the force we are using during our dissemination of the policy and the FMNR implementation and other greening approaches. There's also a growing confidence among the communities, local stakeholders and government for giving the much needed attention to land restoration. If you can continue.
Ahmed, let's start to close out. Thank you.
Key lessons and messages. There's need to fund long-term projects to fully scale up FMNR, BMNR adoption. In Puntland also, we have seen that mixed approach for land restoration works. Community especially started communities to build their confidence. Camifora balances, which I was explaining, was used for fencing farms, also for regreening. The traditional norms played an important role in the social fencing because we have that challenge of free grazing. There's also a need for what we have seen is participated land and resource baseline and monitoring assessment, which is also essential in supporting adaptive management. There's also an existing strong movement for land restoration at grassroots level here, which needs strengthening and maintenance. Hello, thank you. for my short presentation.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I really appreciate that. And now may we turn it over to hear from our colleague in Somaliland, Ibrahim Mohammed Muse. Ibrahim, you have the floor. That looks super. Please go ahead. Thank you.
I can't hear you. Yeah, Ibrahim, we can't hear you.
Ibrahim, I'm not sure if it's your mic because it appears you're not, that you are not muted. Can we just check to make sure we can hear your voice?
The mic seems to be
Right.
connected okay. Can you go ahead, Ibrahim?
Now
Can
can
we
you
try
hear
again?
me?
Yes.
Oh, now it's better, right? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry for that. Environmental integration in Somaliland government policy was quite successful. The Ministry of Environment and Rural Development mainstreamed environmental international strategy for 2021 up to 2025 as one of the land restoration approaches. Also, the ministry produces weekly radio talk program promoting environmental practices and other sustainable land restoration practices in Somaliland. Another good thing is that the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture technical staff have been trained on environmental approach and they became a certified environmental practitioners. This ensures, the sustainability and continuity of such, wonderful and inspiring model of FMNR. Such integration includes the government has already created enabling policies and laws for green efforts. There is a forestry and wildlife conservation law, there is environment conservation law, climate change policy, Somaliland environmental management law passed by the parliament. The government conducted consultative conference recently in 2021, July 2021, the government conducted a consultative conference on environment protection and conservation of biodiversity in 5 regions of Somaliland. Generally, the eastern regions are quite more semi-arid than the western regions. Therefore, the government focused this time around that they, together with the other stakeholders, including partners and the different institutions of the government, to put an effort in tackling with, tree cutting and charcoal, which is a major problem in these areas. They want to enforce the laws that they have been creating. So they have set up a consultative workshop in July 2021, which a number of ministries, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Justice, all regional governors, the police commissioners, you can see from this photo that everybody is there. Then that was a wonderful opportunity, and the FMNR champions participated in this conference and advocated FMNR uptake for land restoration, which was being by created. An example of land storage is like Perot village of FMNR site, which is Odwina district of the region. You can see the before photo, and then the woman started to receive the area, and you see how significantly, change adapt when FMNR was being applied. This is what comes out after photo shows everything here. This is the example of what we are talking about. So this has this, inspiring model of FMNR has been taken up very well in Somaliland. The challenges of several is mostly there is a recurring droughts and then community movement in search of water and pasture is common. Sometimes when this happens, tree cutting for charcoal production as a source of income to survive as a coping strategy happens, which is a problem here. And the long, quite 2 years, COVID-19 have been affected our implementation also in reaching more target than expected. And this was the challenges that we have observed during the project period. And the opportunities observed were support access to quality and appropriate germplasm. There are drought-tolerant varieties are very important. There is a research center in ISDFS, which is IGAD Sheikh Technical Veterinary School, funded by IGAD through EU. This research center has a tissue culture lab, which enables farmers to source a quality and appropriate germplasm. This is an opportunity. We have some activities to link, the farmers in this situation, but unfortunately, due to the COVID-19, that was not happening, and most technical staff have been, affected by movement restrictions in their countries. More funds to invest in projects successful green is another, opportunity to promote the government institutions in the mainstream and adoption of FMNR, and also to support the government to enforce the policies and laws enabling for regreening. Because if laws are created but sitting on the shelf, it doesn't make any sense. So this, momentum needs to be continued. The key lessons include project funding was very small. It was just 500k euro for Somaliland case. Huge investments needed to significantly replace vast area of degraded land. Government engagement and involvement enabled quality intervention and ensured project sustainability. In districts, village farmer-to-farmer exposure visit for colony has increased the confidence of FMNR approach by the rural community. They have seen with their own eyes how transformation happened. Other international development agencies among FAO, Oxfam Care, and ASF embraced the FMNR project model as effective and sustainable land storage approach in Somali context. FAO have granted vision to implement FMNR in additional 18 villages other than 30 villages of the Regreening project. Leads some consortium of partners, including Care, Oxfam, which integrated also FMNR land storation approach. And this some rep has even invited Tony Ronaldo in 2016 in Somaliland, who have launched a major workshop in Somaliland. Tony Ronaldo visited 2016 Somaliland. That's all I have. Thank you very much. I hope that I have kept the time.
Timing was absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. And if we could stop sharing the screen, then I would love to invite each of our speakers from this session to be back in spotlight, please. We have Sammy Carson and Brian Wambua and Suleiman Fasum Dumbia, Mawak Rampiri, Bube Abdul Kadri, and we also have Ahmed Mohammed. It's lovely to see everyone on the screen. This is a really exciting session. And I just want to thank everyone, because what's been fantastic is we've really gotten into how value chains can drive both conservation, land restoration, and enhanced livelihoods. And we've seen, and I think, Ibrahim, you put away policies that enable action. And I appreciate so much the presentations that both unpacked the policy approach tied to practice and science, and for these very important shifts and changes that you've been able to create. And I apologize that we're not going to be able to ask you questions because of our time, but I want to thank you sincerely. You kept to time. And I just want everyone to give you a round of applause. It was just a lovely, lovely session, and you're getting a lot of kudos in the chat box. And please check the question and answer in case there's something you should answer directly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent presentations. And now we are going to move directly into the last session, which we want to hear the takeaways. And to do that, to facilitate that magnificently, we have invited Dr. Lee Wenawicki. And Lee, I'm just going to hand it off to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Constance, and a big warm welcome to the final wrap-up session of the Regreening Africa Roundtable, where we hope to finish this marathon of 4 hours with as much energy and insights as we started. We have brought together an esteemed panel to highlight key messages from the Regreening Africa project and how they can specifically and concretely inform future investments. So let's get started. My first question goes to Dr. Dennis Garrity, who is the chairman of the board at the Global Evergreening Alliance. Dr. Garrity, given your long and deep connection and history with Regreening Africa, what has surprised you most, and how can these lessons be brought into new initiatives to scale landscape restoration?
Well, thanks, Lee. It's great to be with you for the grand finale of such an ordinary. What has surprised me the most? Well, the surprises that I had have been quite pleasant ones. I've been surprised by how well the vast program has been coordinated and that it has become a shining beacon for how effective regional cross-country land restoration initiatives can be managed for that kind of real impact. I've been surprised that the contribution that was made by the Evergreen Agriculture Partnership originally in the design of the project was so successful, particularly the transparent way in which the lead organizations and implementing partners were selected, and in mobilizing the partners' members, such as CRS and World Vision, Oxfam, and many others. That process worked well and now been continued in program development by the Global Evergreening Alliance. I'm surprised at how the global interest in land restoration and in financial support for restoration has expanded as much as it has since this project began. And I'm particularly surprised that the race to zero of the UN Convention on Climate Change has been able to mobilize the commitments of thousands of corporations around to invest in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and to purchase restoration carbon credits to make up the gap. This has been a tidal wave of restoration carbon investment, and it has opened up a big, wide window to expand the investment base for restoration. I know that Regreening Africa is attracting a lot of attention from the business sector right now to build new programs that may be based on this foundation. Lee, I've been surprised that the Global Evergreen Alliance has grown so quickly from the original Evergreen Agriculture Partnership to reach a size of 71 member organizations currently, which has enabled us to expand our mission to unite the great global NGO community to pursue massive land restoration programs, all building the learnings of the Regreening Africa. And I'm surprised that the Alliance has been able to launch a major new successor program to Regreening Africa that aims to restore 2 million hectares of degraded land in Eastern and Southern Africa. I'm also surprised that the ultimate benefit of the Regreening project cannot be seen today. It will only be observed in the future as the waves of impact of Regreening Africa continue to ramify throughout the region and beyond. Indeed, Lee, there is a bright future ahead for land restoration, and I'm glad that Regreening Africa is driving that success. Congratulations, team.
Dennis, I am so inspired by your words, and I love the highlighting of coordination, and I see and feel the tidal wave of new initiatives to restore degraded land. So thank you so much. I am so pleased to bring our next panelist, Dr. Olaf Westman, who is the Senior Technical Advisor on Climate Change and Natural Resource Management at Catholic Relief Services. Now, I'm going to be a bit naughty here, Olaf, and I'm going to ask you, what are the 3 words that best summarize Regreening Africa and why? Go ahead.
Wow, that is a difficult question, Lee, and thank you very much. And also thank you for inviting me, listening to this 3.5 hours. I've been here from the start as well, and I learn so much every time. So that's really a tall task for me to state that. But thinking about it, I think so. 3 words that I would pick out would be partnership, collaboration would be the first, sort of together. The second one would be learning, and the third one would be integration. And I think so for partnership and collaboration, I think that is critical for everything that we have done. And I really appreciate what Dennis was saying about bringing all of these partners together. I think that not only is it research development practice, but it's also bringing competing organizations together to work together and actually build that social capital, and beyond Regreening Africa, really trying to bring each other in other restoration efforts as well, because we have that relationships and we have those connections now. So that's really, and the co-design process is critical for everything we do, not only among ourselves, but also with the communities. And learning is, of course, a critical part of this. And I think you spoke to that. Building evidence or evidence-based development is really critical for scaling as such. And that's something we do at CRS very much. It's the foundation of what Regreening Africa do, and it's the foundation of what we do. And I think evidence-based scaling or evidence-based development, and use that for scaling. And then, of course, bringing in the joint reflection and learning workshops in that sense is so critical, bringing in all the stakeholders and learning together once again. And that comes back to sort of the last point, integration. So it's integration of people, it's integration of research and development, it's integration of many different practices. So it's not only FMNR and regreening, it's integration of FMNR and regreening with other practice, context-specific practices, water harvesting, grafting, whatever, seed quality, seed value chain. So really bringing that integrated to have the highest impact. So I think those are the 3 words that I would highlight, but there are probably many others. Fantastic. So thank you very much.
Dear Olaf, I feel like we're making a new acronym, PL. I'm not yet, but I absolutely love it. And thank you so much, and for bringing a new term into our vernacular, evidence-based development. This is fantastic. And thank you, Olaf. I always learn something new from you. And I'm super pleased now to bring onto the panel Elvis Anjum, who is coordinator of the Great Green Wall Initiative. Elvis, I have seen you online the entire 4 hours and going. So we really want to hear from you elements from Regreening Africa, from what you've heard today, what you've seen on the ground. Do you most helpful in supporting and efforts in the Great Green? Over to you, Elvis.
Thank you very much, Lee. And first of all, I'm very happy to see Dennis. It's been a very long time that I've not seen my mentor there. He's here. Dennis, please let me see. How have you been?
Very good, very good, Elvis. Good to see you.
It's been a long while. I'm happy that you are so strong and passionate as ever, Thank you so much. Yes, what are aspects that I have learned today that can support scaling, and which other aspect, Lee?
To support the Great Green Wall Initiative, what do you think we can carry forward? What could be the thread from Regreening Africa to really support Great Green Wall?
I think everything. That makes my answer very simple. Everything we can transfer it into the Great Green Wall. But seriously, just as Dennis talked about being surprised, I'm also very surprised. And I follow him to say I'm very surprised by what I have seen today. I deliberately said I was going to follow it all through, to really see what I've been with Mike, I've been with Patrick's, and they present during the Great Green Wall Regional Steering Committee that we had in Djibouti a few months down the line. And, but so today I said, let me concentrate on this program and really see what are the things that I can capture from it, and where are the entry points that we can have if I really want to say, let me advise our member states and the other Great Green Wall partners to get in sort of the synergies, the innovation, and the knowledge management that we all so much yearn for. But before I go to that, I have to say, like many of our colleagues have said, the context is very important. We are living in a very strange world today, Lee. You know that very well. We are living in a world where we are going, people want to go back to the basics. I think the world has become so complicated that we really have to really go back to the basics. And restoration is one of the basics of our lives. So I think this is the best time as far as restoration concerns in terms of sub-regional, national, regional, and what we call continental framework and policies. This is the best time for restoration. Best time in terms of the realization of the need for restoration, the need for adaptation, the need for mitigation, and the importance that these actions or these activities can bring to as not alternative, as solutions to the global crisis that we have today. Here we talk about the nature-based solutions, we talk about ecological services, we talk about all the impact that restoration can create as a way of providing answers to the current development, environmental, and climate change quagmire that we have today. But I think key lessons, key things that we can take from here to the Great Green Wall, I think Bernard said it. Regreening can very much, I don't know whether it's support or the regreening is doing so much for the implementation of the Great Green Wall already. I think one aspect of it, which is what is really dear to our strategy, is the issues of synergies that I have seen here, collaboration, and the sharing of information. That is one part of it. The second part of it is what I saw the presentation from my sister there, Karen Berry. We used to be in Ouagadougou together when she was a young student.
Great, okay.
I think our presentation is so important for us because it's about how do we engage policy? How do we bring policy into all of this? And I have seen clearly the steps taken by this program, and I think that in itself is very important for us. And I will go back to her to say, how to bring it up to some of our activists so that we can start sharing. Another aspect
Elvis,
is the
I'm going to ask you if it's okay if I just allow you to stop there, because you really, highlighted the need for coordination. And thank you so much for being with us today, because we are going to rely on you to connect us to the Great Green Wall actors, to the member states, and as you have done in the past. And thank you so much for really grounding us that restoration is the basis of our life and can help us respond to global challenges. Now, due to time, I'm going to thank you so sincerely. And I see Dennis with a big you as well. And I'm going to invite Dawn. She is the project coordinator for Regreening Homa Bay with FMNR from World Vision Kenya. We talk about this amazing partnership with science, development, government, policy. So my question for you, Irene, is what are the key insights and lessons learned from this once unique partnership? And how has the project really benefited from bringing together these various actors? And you have only 3 minutes. Thanks, Irene.
Thank you so much. Kindly confirm if I'm audible enough.
You are audible. We see you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So you've put it in a very good way. I like the way you're putting it as a unique partnership. So this has been a very unique, very unique partnership. An organization through Regreening Africa project. We've developed serious partnerships and networks across, and this has been strategic for us as an world, because this is an approach we use to achieve our milestones in the development work we do. And as an organization, we've also worked with other cross-cutting partners across the board. And that's the key lessons we've learned so far, and the insights that have helped us benefit throughout this journey is: number one, policy. We are able to accelerate our voice and the development of national regional frameworks that help us to create policy, which is a favorable environmental policy for the interventions of our framework. So these partnerships we've had has really helped us accelerate our voice and work together with our partners. And also the other that is key to us is the issue of integration. And it's only through these partnerships that we've managed to integrate. And from this integration, we've been able to minimize wastage on resources. We've been able to avoid duplication of responsibility. And especially, we've also been able to leverage on the existing structures and the technical expertise that is that comes with the partnerships. So some of the areas of leverage throughout this journey is the areas of scientific research, and partnering with these key partners. As we as World Vision, we are social workers, and we do more social research. But through this partnership, we've been able to conduct scientific research, and we look forward to continuing partnership. Another thing is synergization. So we've worked with several partners. An interesting partner is communities. So partnering with communities and other like development partners has enhanced an empowerment by all our leverages, including scientific research, including and also it has an ability for us and an organization, and also it has promoted a wide impact for us. So last but not least, this one is on fund opportunities. So with the right partnerships, networks, linkages, we stand a higher chance in extracting more funding that will help address and promote environmental stewardship, climate change, and disaster resilience. So going forward, just to keep time, going forward, we're looking forward to working with all the development partners, especially those in on areas of management, monitoring milestones, especially in restoration, and also figuring out how data can be translated into scaling implementation. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Irene, thank you so much. I love it. You're like, let's take this collaboration and partnership forward and keep going, and to accelerate impact on the ground. So well said. Thank you so much, Irene. And now thank you. I have the pleasure to bring Nicholas Gottman, who's the policy author of land and environment for INTA at the European Commission. And I hope Nicholas will be spotlighted and can join us because he has a very important role here. So your question today is, What is one or two of the most important lessons for important donors such as the European Union to take away from such an initiative like Africa?
Thank you, Lee. And well, just to answer to what you just said, I don't think I'm necessarily important here. I think it's all the people that we heard from today that are truly the heroes of this, and truly the most important people here, because they're the ones carrying out the work on the ground, and really creating change for people in their respective communities and localities. So we're just sitting here. I'm sitting in Brussels right now, and live from a distance. So yes, your question has more of a macro aspect after talking about a lot of micro aspects today. But I think personally, what I'm taking away in my position right now, sitting here in Brussels, also three small things. And I think one of those things is especially clear to me after today's roundtable. So I think the first one, very short one, is to really make sure that in the programs that we're developing together with all the relevant stakeholders is to really make sure that we anchor ourselves and see local policies as a starting point, and see how we can work with those first and foremost, because those are established sets of rules that we're going to have to, basically work from, and have to see how we can empower people to work with, reform those policies in order to make sure that we're moving towards the successes that we've set out for ourselves at the beginning of a specific program. The second one, and I think also this very event very much shows that, is really the power of partnership. And I hate to repeat it, but because everyone before me has said it, but I think it's also important to repeat the things that truly are evident. And I think from Regreening Africa, we really learned the lesson that partnership is absolutely crucial, is that we're trying to, even with the differences that we have in the way that we approach things, we're really trying to get everyone around the same table and try to figure things out. And from the perspective of us as a donor organization, I think it's really there, and I've seen that today as well, where you create the sort of leverage we normally envision with the few money that we have to create a movement, to create the kind of impact we would like to see our money making. And it's great to see, someone like Irene talk about that very thing, to really make sure that we create the most possible impact with the money that we're spending. And then I also need to admit, and this is something that Dennis also alluded to, is that we do need to see how we can create a longer time horizon. Because if we're speaking about restoration, first of all, nature needs more time than just more project cycle, and at the same time, human relationships take time to build and to sustain. So obviously there, I don't have the answers how we can necessarily, but it's a starting process, right? But really to see that with these things and thinking about sustainability in general, we need to see how we can increase the time horizon for the things that we do, for how we engage. So I'm taking that away as well. But yeah, to wrap it up the same way I started, I'd like to just congratulate everyone on the amazing work. Unfortunately, I only entered this program at a late stage, but it's amazing to see what you've accomplished over the last 5 years. And yeah, I would just like to wish you all the best, and thanks a lot, and keep it up. Back to you, Lee.
Thanks so much, Nicholas. And I wish we had more time. And really that philosophical ending of nature takes time, but so do relationships, and the partnerships is so critical to this program. So thank you so much for bringing that into the conversation. And now we have our final panelist, and I'm so pleased that our closing panelist is youth, because the future is man. So Milton Oboka is the co-founder and executive director of One Vision Kenya and youth coordinator at Devolution and Climate Change Adaptation Program. Big, warm welcome, Milton. I hope you're energized and inspired by this 4-hour session. So please, Milton. What do you see as the way forward? And could you shed some light and leave us with some inspiring words on the critical role of youth to build resilient landscapes and livelihoods? Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Lee. I'm also glad to be here and even share a panel with the veteran like Dennis. These are an inspiration to us, all of us are young people. And I would also like to say that One Vision Kenya has been working with World Vision and the Regreening Africa team in Migori County when it's come to the implementation of the program. Specifically, I've been in charge of working with the community when it's come to, the FNR in Migori County. So thank you so much. To the point, I would like to say that it's true the world is full of challenges, and it's critical to climate change, environmental degradation. And it's also very important to involve young people because it's very, very important when they spearhead the process and shape the future they really long to see. And I would say that when we engage young people, it's very, very important. When we engage them meaningfully, give them a platform where they can hone leadership skills. It's also very important. And within this platform, it's also important when we avail opportunities which can make them to grow professionally and even grow within the organization. And I would say that when we design programs or projects, and because experience I have running different projects is that sometimes when we design projects, we are not specific to, how we really want to engage young people. And we also only think about it during the implementation stage. So when it wasn't at the design stage, it is not easy for us to do something at the implementation stage. But if we really want to do, it won't be that effective. And this is where sometimes we miss it when it comes to engaging young people meaningfully. And when we design specific program for targeting young people, the question we really need to ask ourselves is something exciting to young people? Is it something promising to young people? Is it something which is going to build their leadership skills? Is it something which has great opportunity for growth for young people? And again, if we are going to actually have programs targeting young people, who is going to engage these young people? Because engaging young people is not science, it is an art. So sometimes you could be such brilliant chap, but how to engage with young people, you could be clueless. So whoever engages with young people is somebody who really need to understand these young people, where they come from, and have strong empathetic values. In a nutshell, what I really wanted to say, that for us to engage young people meaningfully, we need to give them opportunity where we don't just view them as the beneficiaries only, but one platform where they are beneficiaries, they are partners, and these platforms give them an opportunity to build their leadership skills. So thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Milton. I love that engagement is not only a science, but an art. I think really places the needed emphasis on what the previous panelists have also highlighted as the core role of collaboration and partnership. So thank you for bringing your voice into this conversation. And while I've so enjoyed all the panelists and I'm so grateful for all of their insights, it is time for us to close out the session and the 4-hour roundtable. So with that, I am so pleased to hand the microphone to Mika Bourne, the project manager of Regreening Africa, to close out the session. Thanks so much, Mika, for being here. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Lee, and what a fantastic closing insights, lessons, sharing from that group. So thank you so much, Lee. Okay, we've been here for a long time. I just wanted to say a few thank yous and have 3 parting messages as we close up. So thank you to everybody that participated, for your questions, for your engagement, for staying with us for this quite long roundtable. Thank you to everyone that presented, really insightful. I think it shows the depth and the breadth of the work that has been happening and the collaboration and all of those different aspects we've highlighted. And thank you to the team that's really supported to bring this together, from interpretation to those that have supported on communications and hosting this event. So thank you to everyone, we really appreciate. Just to close on 3 summary messages that I think wrap up some of the points that have come out. This large scale restoration is possible. It really is possible, but we need these strong partnerships, and we need to match our practices and approaches to local contexts. And we need to be at the ground level. There is a role for science, evidence, and monitoring to really accelerate restoration impact on the ground. Know that we have to focus on incentives. Restoration depends on the people that live in the communities that manage the land restoration, and with full economic benefits, as well as an enabling policy environment to both make the work possible, also ensure that there's benefits flowing to those at the community level. So I think with that, it's time for us to close up. We'll be having lots of insight briefs and information coming out of the program in the coming months. We don't finish up until February next year, so we will have another event to showcase the final results. But thank you everyone for being online. We've shared all of our contact details in the chat. Please reach out. We look forward to working with all of you and to collaborating to really restore this continent. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening or morning wherever you are, and goodbye.